Hi, Karen Flaherty here. Hope you're doing well today. Today in the Human Design Weather, we're going to be talking about the gate 12, which is the gate of caution. Okay, so we've got the sun in gate 12. It started midday on June 13th. It goes until June 19th, also midday. And the earth is in gate 11, which is the gate of ideas. So we've got the gate 12, which comes off the side of the throat here, the right side of the throat. And then we've got the gate 11, which comes off the bottom of the ajna up here. And we still have the 2343 in all week, which is the channel of structuring. It's in the nodes, and this will be there all week. There won't be any other definition in any of the other centers unless you have gates that match up with the ones that are here. And the only planets that are retrograde are Pluto and Saturn. So we've got the sun in the gate 12, which is the gate of caution. It's called standstill also in the original I Ching. And this is the quality of restraint and the importance of meditation and inaction in confronting temptations. So really it's about being careful mostly about your reputation, mostly about how you conduct yourself, right? Mostly about being on social media, for example. That's the biggest thing I can bring to your attention at this point with this gate. Many of my clients who have this gate do not like to be on social media at all. I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just saying be careful with it, be cautious with it, especially during this week. The incarnation crosses this week are the cross of the Garden of Eden, caution and education. And then it's paired with the gate 11, which is the gate of ideas. And so it's always nice to have this because it's literally peace or ideas in the original I Ching. And this is a harmonic connection in the individual society that permits assessment before renewed action. All to say in a short way, coming up with ideas, coming up with new things that are going to help other people and that allow you to thrive in whatever you're doing. In the gene keys, obscurity is the shadow, idealism is the gift, and light is the CD. So when we're talking about the gene key for this week, we've got the gene key 12. Here, the shadow is vanity. The gift is discrimination, and the CD is purity. And so what Richard says in this graphic is let love sing through you. What the whole idea of the caution is to make sure that you stay reputable so that other people have a respect for you and you have respect for yourself and you keep it on a kind of an even keel, right? What they're referring to as vanity here is love of the self. And, almost in a narcissistic way where you only love yourself, where you're just enamored at the sound of your voice, where you can't wait to get in front of other people, and where you really are loving yourself to the point of exclusion of other people. The gift is in discrimination, where you can both love yourself, your higher self can love yourself and love others. So it's kind of the shadow is the lower self, if you will, that can only see yourself and love yourself. And the discrimination and purity in the other two, in the gift and the CD, are about loving other people and really having oneness, right, with other people. Whereas you're not better than them, or it's a very, vanity is really a tough one, because even Richard admits that even when we think we're not being vain, we're thinking about vanity, and so that still makes us vain. So it's a really tough one to get through, even if you're trying to be less vain, let's say, or less self-conscious, or less more conscious of being with others and less conscious of loving yourself. Because the thing is, you want to love yourself, right? People teach loving yourself first, right? So you do. It's not that we don't want you to love yourself. You want to love yourself, but you also want to be about other people as well, and loving other people through your deeds and actions and voices and whatever words you're using. So he says vanity can choose the most beautiful of words, but it can never hide the frequency of its tone. And so here he means that you can use the most generous words, the most compassionate words for other people, and yet if you're still worried about the next selfie, or you're worried about the next way that you can be shown off in some way, then people will get it, and people will understand the frequency of your voice, and they'll not pay much attention. They'll still see through you in terms of the vanity. He also says discrimination gives humanity a taste of a higher order operating behind the scenes of life. And as I said, that vanity is always going to be there to a certain extent, and our feeling of, the higher self, the oneness, the purity, the helping other people, and being about other people, as well as loving yourself, will shine through if you're able to, almost see behind the scenes, so that you're able to rise above it. Just a word about the repressive and reactive shadows. The repressive can seem a little elitist because it will be quieter. It'll be the kind of thing where you're just let other people have their vanity, basically do their selfies, and just, kind of hang back and be quiet, but still be quite vain in the way you approach your own reputation. And then in the reactive way, because it's based on fear or anger, this is where people get into fights over, or confrontations, or they're jealous or envious of other people who might have an Instagram feed that looks better than theirs, and it gets gotten kind of contentious over the years, since social media has gotten so important in people's lives, especially younger people. There are a number of ways you can approach social media. Having a balanced look at it, having as I mentioned, love of the self as well as love of others, goes a long way to creating that balance in your own life. So got a number of people this week born with the writing across of Eden, including former President Donald Trump, Paul McCartney. We'll be talking about him. Salman Rushdie, Courtney Cox, Joyce Carol Oates, Katharine Graham, a number of Lionel Richie, Steffi Graf. And so some of these writers actually have had instances where their reputation has been called into question, and for the example of Salman Rushdie, he actually had to flee the country, flee Iran, so that he could continue to write and have some freedom. So he was someone, obviously, who was watching out for his reputation, but had no choice but to leave. So let's talk about Sir Paul McCartney. He is, as you probably know, one of the original Beatles from the 1960s, and was born on June 18th, 1942, right in the middle of World War II. He was born in Liverpool, England. He's a manifester with the 4-6 profile, and he is the writing across of Eden. He's known as a singer, musician, songwriter, philanthropist, activist, vegetarian, and has a number of children, was married a few times, and is currently married. So as we look at his chart, to me, one of the, there's a few interesting things about it, but he's got the 4037. Let's talk about the channels first. So he's got the 4037, which is the channel of agreements or community. And so he was all about the agreements that the Beatles were making, and going forward. Those were obviously important to him as well. So he had the will center defined. I believe he was one of the only Beatles that had the will center defined. So he was a bit of a taskmaster when it came to getting things done. If you watch the Get Back series, you could tell that he was the one pushing things forward and moving things along, whereas everybody else was a little less worried about what they got done in a day. He is emotional with the channel 3536, which is one of the collective channels, but it can be high highs and low lows, and is actually, I find with most clients and entertainers that I've studied, the emotional solar plexus can be quite a nice addition to, it can be a good help to writing and composing and coming up with new ideas. That being said, he also does have the gate of ideas, because that's up in his, that is right up in his conscious earth, along with the 12 in the conscious sun. So he is someone who, this is, I didn't actually mention this, but with the 12, writing, composing, songwriting, anything like that, especially with the open head and ajna, makes it very easy. It's basically this conduit that allows for the channeling of information and ideas and whatever it is you're up to come through pretty easily. He, I'm sure you've heard the stories where he and John Lennon would come up with songs in a matter of 20 minutes. He was basically composing in real time. If you watch that Get Back series, he was composing in real time. He'd get to the piano, he'd work out the melody, and then the words would come. That's the power of this 12. And as I said, he had it in his conscious sun, and so it was a very dominant force in his life. Within the incarnation cross, there's also the 36 and the 6. So that the 36 is here, coming off the top of the solar plexus. The 6 is here, and that's his only tribal energy within the defense circuit. So if you look here as a manifester, he's completely open. The only gate off the sacral is the 42, which is completions, completing things. No gates at all off the spleen, which is kind of unusual for people in, it's unusual for anybody, but more and more kids are born now with this completely open spleen, in that they're fearless. Paul was also fearless. There might have been some fears associated there, especially after his mother died at 14, but generally pretty fearless. And completely open root also. So no pressures there from any gates whatsoever, but feeling the pressure of others that are around him. With the open head and ajna, he had lots of information coming through easily, but hard to hold on to things, hard to hold on to details and memories and perhaps and things like that. That just goes with the territory with the open head and ajna. But having said that, he's an amazing musician. He's always been writing. It's now, if you figure they started in 62, that's 60 years of writing songs. And he actually started writing songs before that. He was writing songs in high school when he was, after he met John Lennon. And actually, I believe he was writing before that. So that's a long time, 60, 70 years of writing and composing and generating music that's widely known and widely honored. There were many Grammy nominations as well as wins, and for the Beatles, Wings, and his solo work. So quite a bit going on there. He's got I'm just noticing he has every single gate coming off the throat except for the 56, which is the gate of the storyteller, and 62, which is details. And that's kind of ironic because he was pretty detailed. But he's got the 16, which is enthusiasm, the 20, which is speaking in the moment, the 31, which is influence. And he had that twice, both conscious and unconscious. He's got the gate 8, which is making a creative contribution to the world, the 33, which is privacy and retreat, and connected to the 13, which is the listener. So this is the entire channel of the prodigal. It's all about telling the stories of the past. And he does that through his music. The gate 45, which is the gate of the king. We talked about that recently. That 12, which is the gate of caution, about his reputation. And, if you notice, over 60, 70 years, his reputation has been fairly intact. And then the 35 is all about change. He liked to change things up. He liked to move around and try new things. So those are all the gates coming off the throat. And those are all energies that he would be able to, use at any given moment as a manifester. When he used them, people heard what he wanted to say. People heard what he was about, what he was up to, and they listened. And that made him the de facto leader of the Beatles, basically, after Brian Epstein died. John had been the titular leader prior to that, because he started the band, but basically Paul took over, and Paul was respected because he was the manifester. He had the voice, he could be heard, and the others were two generators and a projector. So he basically held the stage and continued on and basically stepped into the leadership role. He's also got the 46, which is the love of the flesh, the 2, which is all about saving and spending money. And he's done that quite well. He's, I think at last look, he was a billionaire, or he is a billionaire. And then the 15, which is the gate of extremes. And this is all about, the 15 is all about extremes, which is, it is a love of humanity, which he has, but it's also the, kind of wondering why there were wars, and, it probably feeds into the vegetarianism and his activism and things like that. But it's also being able to not follow a schedule necessarily. So the travel and the writing and the in studio versus out of studio versus with the family versus not. He was able to balance all that with this gate 15, because he could, even though he may not have had as much energy as others being a manifester, he did have to go home and sleep once in a while. He still could have this very unusual schedule and really live life at the extremes. He also has the, I was going to mention the gate 6, which is the gate of, the only gate he's got in the defense circuit. And most manifestors are, many manifestors are completely open here, because anything that would connect in would give them a defined sacral. So he doesn't have a defined sacral, and that makes him a manifestor with the defined throat to the root, the solar plexus. But this gate 6 is all about protection and taking care of the family and being of service, right? Being someone who can be counted on to take care of the kids and of the family. And so he was very much a family guy, although you have to give him props for being out on the road at 4, but he is going to be 80 years old, and he is out on the road and in concert in this US, and I think it's a world tour, and he's going to be turning 80 on June 18th. So good for him. He's actually a very long-lived manifester, and with that 4-6, he is obviously being a role model for lots of us. The 4 also gives him, 4-6 also gives him this outgoing personality, which was evident in the Beatles and long afterward. So happy birthday, Paul. I hope you have a good week. See what it feels like this week to be aware of that gate 12, that there might be something that comes up with regard to scandals. There might be some secrets coming out. There might be more information coming out in the US about the hearings that are going on. There might be other things that come out, and you want to watch your own personal life and be sure that what you're putting out there is what you're comfortable with, that you're proud of, and that it really reflects the reputation that you want others to know you by. So have a great week, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.